Hey guys. So I'm 5 minutes late. Hello guys. Hello, hello. How you doing? Hey. So we're gonna be having an interview today with Alexa. Now, say where you're from. Say hello in the comments. We love to interact with you guys. This is gonna be like a more formal. Hey. What up, Alexa? Oh my God. Hey guys. How are you over there?
Pretty good. Things are going pretty well today. Just trying to start off my day right with some self-care and actually did my makeup for once, which was fun.
Oh my God, amazing. Yes, putting on makeup, I did it the other day and I was like, I forgot
Yeah.
like what I look like. Not that that's like you have to put it on or anything, but it's kind of like nice to just do it up,
Yeah.
self-care.
Yeah, I will go every single day without wearing makeup and then I'll put it on and be like, "Oh, that was actually like really fun." I love the creative form of expression of doing your makeup. For me, that's always been like something I've just loved. So,
Oh my God, I love that. See, that's the thing too. I'm really bad with drawing. So makeup for me has been always like a challenge. Meanwhile, there's other things that I can definitely do a lot easier, but it is so much fun and there's so much creativity. And I think with masks, especially now, it's gonna be all about how do we express ourselves with up here.
I know. I've put on lipstick before going out, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have my mask on. No one's gonna see it. Oh well.
I know. Oh my God, guys. So self-care in 2020 is changing. If in case you're missing the message here, I think we all know it. Hey guys. Oh, Diane is on. She's one of my former clients. Love you. UK, India, England. Oh my God, we got all y'all from all over the world. Heaney says, hello, hope you have a great day from Ireland. Awesome. So welcome guys. Thanks for joining us. I actually completely forgot that we had this live today. I would have totally my head is totally here, but it's just to goes to show you everybody is a little bit all over the place these days, including myself. So thank you so much for being here. So I'll give a little intro so you guys know who is with us today. So this is Alexa. She is a self-compassion coach and a trauma-informed therapist. She is also an amazing human being. She's part of my mastermind. And I'm not of course, maybe a little biased, but I really, really, really love her so much. I've been working with her now for a couple of months, and her and I are on the same wavelength when it comes to all kinds of healing, self-love, self-compassion. So I thought it'd be really great to bring her on because I incorporate self-compassion and soul compassion. I love that word, which actually really feels more aligned with how I see self-compassion.
Mhm.
But she incorporates that as her main form of expertise, which I think is super awesome, as of course she incorporates everything else. So I want to hear all about you. Let's share you with everybody. And I'm kind of jealous. I get to share
Oh,
you now. I don't want to share you with anybody, but
oh,
yeah, tell us a little bit about you, maybe a little bit about how you got to be a self-compassion coach and what you love to do.
yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gabby, for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
And you're so right. I think we're on the same wavelength with our thinking and healing. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am an associate marriage and family therapist. So I have a background in therapy, and I basically have gone through a lot of things in my own life that I've struggled with that really led me to the path to self compassion. So I really struggled growing up with knowing who I am, knowing my voice. I feel like I was always really living for other people, trying to make other people happy, didn't know who I was. And when I got to college, I think that really hit me pretty hard because. Again, I was just trying to people please, and I went to UCSB, which is a big party school.
Yeah.
I was
I went to USC, so we know. I know. Yeah.
And so I really focused a lot on my social life. And throughout high school, I had done really well in school. And then when I got to college, my priorities definitely changed. And um, I think the goal is balance, but I did not know how to have balance. And so I entered into an emotionally abusive relationship, and that really devastated me. I went home for a year, my junior year of college, because I failed two of my classes because my anxiety was so bad that I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
get myself to study. Um, and so I moved back home, and I started going to therapy myself. I, at the same time, I was struggling with an eating disorder, bulimia, and
Wow.
um, yeah, I was pretty like shaken. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was having a hard time functioning, and so therapy was like the start of my journey. And
Mm.
the awesome part is that it's really like led me to so many more things. I After I got out of college, I I actually entered a different emotionally abusive relationship, and so
Mm.
it really was just like back to back, me not knowing who I was, feeling defeated. I mean, the different pieces that come from emotional abuse, including um, like feeling like parts of you were taken away or weren't accepted or things.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like relearning who I was. And self compassion became a huge piece of that because I was a perfectionist in terms of I always needed to have everything like I needed to be, even though I know that I'm not perfect and I've never thought that I was perfect. And that's a part of it, what is like trying to be perfect, but there's no such thing, right? So self compassion is ultimately what really changed my life. I really got into meditation and mindfulness first, and
Mm.
then through that, and through Inside LA, which is
Oh
a
my God, me too. Wait, shut up. How do I not know this about you? Am I just like finding this out for the first time? That's where I like learned as well. That's my home base. Oh
it's
my God.
thing. I
That's
know
amazing.
it like changed my life, and after I did the self compassion program, I was like, this is exactly what I need in my life. It completely. I've been working on myself in terms of my own growth and finding out who I am over the course of the last few years, and it's really significantly shifted my entire life. Like I've learned.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Can
Mm-hmm.
anybody, if you guys can relate to like anything we're talking about, whether it's like, anxiety or healing from a disordered eating or like some kind of self-loathing stuff, like please drop a comment, let us know. Like we want to all create a safe space that to explore the fact that this is part of the human journey. It's like we don't know sometimes how to handle the things that happen to us. And like whether we use the word trauma or not, like we will all experience really upsetting, difficult things. So like what's the first step? And I really feel like for me too, I had never even heard of self-compassion before I had the right therapist who was like, have you heard of self-compassion? And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, do you treat yourself the same way that you treat the people that you love? And I was like, oh shit, like no one's asked me that before, like what a life-changing thing to think, oh my God, I give so much love to other people, but when it comes to myself, I say the most horrible things. And what I say to myself, like out loud to someone that I love, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it shocked me when I like that moment really shook me. I don't know if you ever had one of those, but
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, totally. I think that was a huge part of my own realization was like, what would you say to a friend or a loved one? And it's like, I would be so beyond kind and understanding, but with myself, I'd be the complete opposite. I'd be like, why do you suck at life? Why are you a failure? Like you're not smart enough, pretty enough, you're
mm.
not fun enough, you're not funny enough. I don't know. I just like had so many different self criticisms, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I know.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was really funny when I entered the world of therapy as a therapist, everybody who came in, I noticed at least the pattern was all around like wounding and worthiness and self-loathing. And that like even the most like if you didn't really know them, like the most aggressive, angry people, it's really like they're not like that like for no reason. There's a reason that people are very angry or very like wounded, and that self-compassion can really be such a key in completely transforming not only their lives but the lives of everybody around them. Because when you heal yourself, you heal everybody around you. You know, it's like it's a reverberating effect.
Yeah, yeah. And I just saw this comment in from the Clumsy Traveler about,
That, yeah, Severin, I love her. Hey.
I feel like that is so true to me. So I
Yeah.
a lot of people, especially now, especially that I'm in my career and I'm confident in what I do and I love what I do. I think people have this idea sometimes of like, oh, she's got it all together, but no, like I still struggle with self-criticism, and I think it really is a lifelong journey.
It is. And it's so funny because like you think like for those of you who are on this journey of self-love and trying to figure out like who you are, it's like you reach like a layer, it's like an onion. Like you reach a layer and you're like, I got it, like I figured it out. And then like boom, you're hit with like something that happens where you're challenged to like really practice what you've been preaching and what you've been practicing already. And then you realize there's like a whole other layer. But it starts with self-compassion, like understanding that you're worthy of the same like space and permission to be human as everybody else in the world, and that you're not alone in your experiences of pain or anxiety or depression or trauma, and that like we all need to start talking about it, because like I think if we all talked about it as much as we talk about, I don't know, like fitness, like what's visible, you know, like because we can, I think like this would be like a totally different world that we could live in, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. And I think it's 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 one of those things too that I think it's hard to embrace self-compassion at first. And a huge piece is because our brains have been wired, they get stronger. The more and more we are critical of ourselves, those pathways in our brains get stronger and stronger. But then when we start to use self-compassion, those pathways in our brains aren't as strong as the self-critical pathways. And so at first it doesn't feel like, okay, it doesn't feel as strong as the self-compassion, but the more we practice, the more we're wiring our brains to actually be more self-compassionate. And then it gets stronger and stronger, and it starts to feel really amazing because you start the benefits of it.
It's like it's kind of addicting once you start to like see it work. It's like, oh my God, I want to feel this way all the time. And then like even when people are mad at you, it's kind of like you feel something or like, you know, whatever, but there's so much room for like, well, okay, and like, you know, we're gonna be okay. You know, like I'm okay. Like I'm still a good person and there's room to like be a human being. Um, I love that. And I love that you come from this like really formal traditional therapy background like I did, and that, you know, you felt really called to dive super deep into this topic that's so specific to your personal journey. Because I think, I don't know about you, but I think it's really important that like we do, like people who are in positions of power where we're talking about power differentials and we're helping other people and like people look up to us, it is so important that we do our own inner work and own our own shit. Like because if we can't like own our own self-compassion and we're telling people to do this, like how can we help anybody, like if we haven't stepped through, because it's hard. It's like, oh, love yourself, like say affirmations, but like in reality that neurowiring is so hard to unwire and like rewire. It's like you're basically like Arnold Schwarzenegger or like The Rock with like the one arm of like self-loathing and like self-criticism, and then the other arm is like total noodle, and so you're just kind of like really building, you have to build it up. Yeah.
That's so funny because I use muscles, like the idea of like muscles as the same metaphor when I talk to clients about it. Because I'm like, you know, at first muscle is weak, but the more and more you use it, it gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, totally, totally. So, so yeah, so I'd love to hear from you, I guess, like what you kind of do with your work. So you do what's called soul compassion. So like tell us what that's about.
Yeah, so basically, I took the foundational things that really helped me in my life. So, self compassion, authenticity, self empowerment, coming from an intersectional standpoint, understanding how culture and family systems impact our self perceptions. Like, we internalize those negative messages that people tell us growing up, well, that either society or family tell us. And so, I was like, how can I take all of this and make an incredible program that will help people? And so with soul compassion, I just do that. And
I
so
like needed this when I was like on my first like, yeah, on my journey. Go ahead.
and so I took those pieces, and what it really is I do one-to-one coaching. I'm also working on uh, starting a new group, hopefully in the fall, with soul compassion people, so who are looking to really explore their relationships with themselves, really understand they have that are actually holding you back, and really transforming them. So bringing in self-compassion, bringing in reframing, so insight oriented and knowing like where those messages came from, but then oriented and changing about ourselves and build a stronger, more resilient narrative, one that is authentic to who you are. Also real goal oriented as well. So like a part of the program is really understanding like what are your goals, and like how is being self-critical holding you. A lot of times we think being self-critical is the thing that's going to motivate us to reach our goals, when really it just holds us back a lot.
So, oh my God, a lot. I used to be that person for sure. If anybody else thinks that self-criticism drives you forward, raise your hand or let us know. It doesn't. It doesn't do it. Breaks us down for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really taking self-compassion and realizing it actually motivates us more, and it puts us in a better mindset, and actually really boosts us. And I know for sure it allowed me to be where I am today in terms of my career and even like my personal relationships. I have so many more healthier relationships with like, for example, with my mom. I found a partner who is just so kind and respects me, and that's also knowing about my own self-worth and what I deserve, so that's been amazing.
Yeah. And if you guys like haven't grown up, and most of us haven't, like in households that are really aware of like how to build up self-esteem and how to like build up like that kind of sense of like I'm okay to love myself, and that's normal, and like I should be doing that, and giving myself breaks and like supporting myself. It can be like this whole undoing. And in terms of like, let's say we've experienced like childhood trauma growing up, where maybe we've like received messages of unworthiness, or we have that really loud inner critic in your head. I love the clumsy traveler. I love you so much. She's like, I hate love self-criticism. I'm like so with you on that. So like what are like if you're from trauma, right, and you're coming from that background, like how should we think about it in terms of self-compassion? How can we like link those two things? Like why is that important, especially important for trauma survivors?
Yeah, definitely. And this is definitely a huge component of my coaching, is being trauma informed. And yeah, thankfully, I feel like my therapeutic background has given me a huge boost, because I've worked with survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, hate crimes, etc. And so really bringing that self-compassion is important in trauma, because a lot of times there's so much guilt involved with our traumas. So feeling like we are at fault for what happened, that if we had done things differently, if we had reacted differently, if we had been a different person, whatever it may be, that comes in after trauma. And so self-compassion is really important, because it allows us to allow space for those feelings, and then bring in kindness and understanding, so that then we can shift those feelings and understand that we are not at fault for our traumas, and that our traumas also don't define us. So sometimes we get so stuck in feeling like we get these narratives of like, oh, I am a victim and now I have PTSD and that's all that I am. But in reality, just parts of us, and it's learning to see ourselves as a whole and to love every single part of ourselves, despite if it feels hard to.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I lost video, but I still hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, I think we may have lost her for a second. Oh, there we go. No, but we heard everything you said. Yeah, but that's so important and such a huge thing. Yeah, the guilt. I think like there's guilt and shame, so much around the trauma, and that it's easier to kind of be like, let's just like internalize that as being our kind of, like own fault, or like, whatever like story or narrative that we create that centralizes us as being like, we just need to suck it up and move on. That always like ends up coming out in other ways. So it's like, if we don't learn how to like almost befriend those feelings and kind of see them as just an extension of who we are, and it's like that's part of us, and it's okay to have all of those range of feelings, and to feel safe in doing so is like huge.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you guys have any questions, definitely keep asking anytime you want. Just drop them in the comments. Um, so someone had asked, how keep moving forward is the trick. Here, I think, how do we keep moving forward? Ooh, ooh, sorry, did you hear me?
Yeah,
Did you
no.
hear
So,
me? Okay. Ooh, hold on. Sorry, guys, we're having some
all right.
connection
So the question,
issues.
can you repeat the question?
We got it?
I think it's okay now.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you repeat again?
Yeah, like so the first question was just like, how do we start moving forward from like, if like, so what are some steps we can take to start growing self-compassion?
Hmm. Okay, so um,
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry guys, I think we're having some connection issues. Ah!
sorry, I don't know internet.
No worries at all. Okay. So what are some first steps towards
Yeah.
self-compassion that you can take?
Yeah, I think a huge piece is just starting to be aware of when you're being critical of yourself. It all starts with awareness. Noticing those moments when those self-critical thoughts come in. Um, and literally just labeling it as self-critical. And then trying not to judge yourself for being self-critical, which is a judge ourselves for being self-critical. If you're a perfectionist like I am, or a recovering perfectionist. So really just being aware, I would say, is like the first step. And also asking yourself, when you notice that self-criticism, what can I do for myself right now to show myself understanding or kindness? And literally asking yourself that question will allow you to make space for a shift in how you respond to those self-critical thoughts. Because typically I
Mm,
think the self-criticism tends to spiral, but you keep judging yourself for that. But if you're allowed to ask yourself, like, how can I take care of myself in this moment? It really moves your mindset to one of compassion and of understanding and of kindness.
yeah, I
Um,
love that. Yeah,
yeah,
it flips really the perspective. You start asking yourself the better questions to answer, not why
mm-hmm.
do I suck, but like, how can I show myself some kindness and forgiveness
Yeah,
right now? How can I give myself a little grace, given that I'm not a perfect person and there's no such thing as perfection anyway. Yeah. So another question we have is, what are some practical steps to release like guilty feelings?
yeah. So this is a really big one, and um, I think a huge piece of releasing guilty feelings is processing them. So, first, allowing yourself to sit with them, trying not
Mm.
to put them away, trying not to overindulge them either, but sitting with them, and then noticing what's happening in your body. And I would suggest journaling. So, just writing down what the guilty feelings are, why they're coming up for you. Um, and then again, asking yourself, how can I show myself compassion? How can I show myself understanding? And then if you're feeling up to it, even challenging those thoughts, saying, how come this actually isn't my fault? And affirming yourself. So this isn't my fault. I'm not at fault. What are the reasons why maybe I feel at fault? Did society teach me that because I'm, either a woman or queer or whatever you may be, to feel these certain feelings of shame or oppression after certain instances where we feel guilty? Because most of the time that is where it comes from. We're not born feeling guilty or self-loathing. That those messages come from outside. So acknowledging where it's coming from.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is like what I find the most when I tell people like try journaling, it's like I don't know the answers, and that's the whole point of journaling. Like it's not that you
Yeah.
know the answers and then you write it down for later. It's that you're actually having a conversation almost with your unconscious and
Mhm.
allowing like your inner voice to like your thoughts, like your soul voice will come up if you write down and think about this question. You'll start to have thoughts, and those thoughts, write those thoughts down. That's the answer. And then from there, you can
Mhm.
kind of look back and really figure things out for yourself. But you don't have to go into it, knowing the answer. That the whole point is that the journaling will bring it out from you. Yes, fuck the patriarchy. I love these. I love you guys so much. Like I live for these lives. Okay, so this is now another question, if you don't mind. So can I know why do we sometimes find true liberation and being free from serious, sorrowful mental pain that we suffered for a long time, and then boom, when a little thing from one bad day happens, doesn't mean negativity has power over positivity because one simple thing can break or destroy progress of a year. Ooh, lots to dive
Yeah.
into there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's normal that as a part of being human, there are going to be points in our lives where we're feeling maybe a little re-traumatized or feeling like we go back into those spaces, feeling like maybe like a little kid or feeling unworthy or stuck or things like that. And first, I just want to normalize that because it is such a normal part of our process and our work as humans. Um, I would challenge the idea though that it would necessarily take away all of the work that you've done so far, because I think that even though things can bring us back, it doesn't mean that it takes away the resilience, the strength, and the growth that we've made.
Mm,
I'd say that in those moments, it's important to, again, show yourself some compassion because it is a part of the human experience. And then ask yourself, how are the ways that in which I've grown from past experiences, how can I use those now when I'm feeling this moment right now? Because those are the things that are going to help us move forward and really be able to process what we're going through. So, it, yeah.
yeah, no, I love that. That's so helpful and such valuable information, I think. And it's so funny because recently in my mastermind, we've been talking about how healing is like, we always talk about healing being nonlinear and like this kind of like, you know, um, but every day you're making
Yeah.
progress, you know what I mean? Like little by little, no matter what you feel is going on, you are healing and making progress. But that it's like the cycle is like we have a trauma, we have a thing that we're working on, we feel like we can't do it, we start to get confidence, we start to heal, we start to get better, we have it under control, it's becoming now like now not even a thing anymore, and then boom, we think we're good, and then another thing happens, and then we set up it. So it's almost like an upward spiral, and that each
Mm-hmm.
time the healing process, you go through this cycle of being triggered from your trauma, using your tools to like kind of move through it and seeing that you can get through it every time. It becomes fewer and fewer instances until it's like you've risen up and like that's where the healing is. But that it is this cycle and it's this upward spiral of healing that happens over time, and that it absolutely never takes away from your healing when you have a triggered moment, when you fall back into old habits, when you no, it's an opportunity for you to say, awareness, like here it's happening. And like, what can I do to now either, move through this or, but do better next time, because like that's the compassion part is like, well, we're doing the best we can and that's enough.
Yeah, and actually, this is something that I was going to touch on too, is this that what I found in my life and what I've seen with my clients is that when we continually bring in our coping skills, our self-compassion, etc., that when harder things hit us in life, or those we get re-traumatized, things like that, it's actually, I tend to find that it tends to be easier to implement the coping skills because you've been practicing them, they've been wiring in your brain. And then also that it takes less time to heal. So
Yes.
pain doesn't seem to last as long because we're actively using our steps that we've been using that have been helpful for us prior, and it really is incredible. And that's something that always gives me hope, because there are times where I really struggle. You know, I have depression and I struggle with it sometimes, but reminding myself, like, wow, like, how resilient am I? I've made it through these things, and actually it gets easier every time in terms of like from them.
Yeah, and that you start to build this kind of self-trust that you can really bring yourself through these things, you know, and like learn the skills and tools that you can implement. And that's a really important point, guys. Like, this goes with like anything: meditation, mindfulness practices, breath work, all the like fun stuff that I talk about. You actually have to practice that when you are in a calm state so that you can bring it up and like kind of retrain your body when you're activated. If the only time you're reaching for your breath work or your self-compassion practice, sorry. If the only time you're like reaching for your self-compassion practices is when, or like your healing practices is when you're activated, it's really going to be hard to make any changes. So like for me, that looks like, oh, like I'm 5 minutes late. It's okay. I'm fine. It's okay to be 5 minutes late. Or like, oh, like I maybe slightly inconvenience somebody by having to reschedule. It's like, I'm not the worst person in the world. It's like, it's okay to reschedule. Sometimes things come up. That's part of life. And like if you practice this kind of like allowing yourself to have space for that, it's so, so tremendously healing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess let's take one more question. So we're being asked, like, if you have any steps to walk yourself out of a panic attack? And I think this is something, especially with COVID, especially with all the tensions happening. Like, I mean, it's just crazy times right now. So I know I've experienced, I haven't had a full-out panic attack because I've been really on top of self-care, which is also fluctuated. Like, not every, like, I'll go weeks when I'm really not good, and then I'll get back on the train. But I know a lot of people who are really suffering from anxiety right now, really suffering from, I mean, and me too, but from panic attacks specifically. So like what are some ideas that, you know, we can do if we're experiencing that?
Yeah. First, I just want to say that I have suffered from panic disorder in the past, and there are still times where I have to manage my anxiety because I feel like I'm going to get panicky. And even during like the pandemic and everything and the happening in the world, like those feelings happen coming up, and so I just want to normalize that. And it took me practice. So I think with panic, it takes a lot of practice of using your coping skills and trusting yourself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the biggest things for me was recognizing that when those first feelings of panic arise in my body, reminding myself that it doesn't have to turn fully into a panic attack. Because I think I used to feel like as soon as that feeling started, that there was no way, that I've already lost control, that there's no way it's not going to peak or something like that. So taking that moment to remind myself, okay, first of all, it doesn't have to turn into a full-blown panic attack. And again, asking yourself, how can I take care of myself in this moment? So some of the ways in which I strongly recommend people when they're struggling with panic, there's all sorts of different grounding activities we can do. So one of them is just coming into your senses. So noticing what you see around you, noticing what you hear around you, noticing what you smell, if there's any taste, noticing what you feel. So maybe the texture of the clothing that you're wearing, things such as that are going to ground you. And you can go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is one of the activities. So like 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you feel, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. And then going
Yeah.
as needed.
I love those. Those are so, so good. there's anxiety and panic is really like living in the is like worrying about the future, right? The stuff we can't control. So it's all about bringing it back to the immediate moment. I have uh it's like back there in like my little thing that I have with all my oils and stuff, but I have this like really great meditation stone that I used to carry like literally in my pocket as a grounding stone. So every time I would go to a new place or I would go, I started to learn what my triggers were, like being around strangers, being in large crowds, being around like certain like kinds of people and being like, in certain spaces. I started by bringing this stone with me and just like, just every time I start to feel panicky, I just like rub my fingers over the stone and like notice the texture and how heavy it was in my hand and like, really like kind of believe that it was imbued with this like healing energy. And even just that belief, that you have that this is like going to ground me
Yeah.
was really helpful for me too. So, and I've heard, and I haven't done this, but I can see why this would be good because it's sensorial as well. It's either a really, really, really cold shower, like ice cold, like jump in an ice cold shower, shock your body out of it. Or there's also this guy on TikTok who I don't know if this is just like, I have to do some research on this guy, so don't take this like 100%, but it makes sense. So you tell me what you think. He bites into like lemons. Like he actually just in the middle of a panic attack will bite into like through the rind, like into the lemon. And he like swears that it's like the best, fastest way to get out of a panic attack because it's so shocking for your body to be sour.
That's a really interesting idea, and I think it could totally work because I think that it can totally shock the body. What you were talking about with taking a cold shower,
It's a cold shower.
cold shoulder. Um, uh, uh, you can also like if you don't have access to a shower, you can go to the bathroom and splash your face with water, let it like with very cold water, things like that that really shock our bodies and our minds out of that fight or flight stage. Also, just getting yourself out of the air that you're in. So for me, taking walks is huge for me when I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Ooh. Can you hear me? Oh no, here we go. We're running too late. Oh, there we go. I feel like sometimes Instagram wants us to like not talk about these things. But yeah, so going out for walks, like going into nature is huge. That's a big one. Getting space, like physical
Mhm.
space. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, it is kind of the end of our talk, so thank you so
Yeah.
much, guys, for hanging out. I do want to kind of, since, like this is some really seriously awesome coaching. Like, I wish I had someone to kind of get me started on my self-compassion journey because I probably was like the hardest on myself right before I started healing. Like that was like when I was at my lowest and I was beating myself up, which is like, doesn't help. So what does your coaching kind of look like in terms of like, what do you do? And then who do you help? Like who should sign up? And tell us how to do it.
Awesome. Yes. So I'm really excited because right now I'm actually taking on 3 people for one-to-one coaching. I already have some applications rolling in and doing some discovery calls today, so I'm pretty excited with that. But
Yay.
yeah, basically, my one-to-one coaching, I have 2 different packages, but you'll meet one-on-one with me either every other week or once a week, depending on the package. And then you also get access to my 12-week online program, which is really cool. And
Huge.
yeah, it has worksheets, so things you'll do each week that focus on self-compassion, authenticity. I have a different topic each week that you'll dive into. You'll do goal setting each week. Also, it includes meditations and
Mm.
video education from me as well. So not only get the one-to-one, but then you get all of those pieces.
Like literally the best. Like that is amazing. So you like none of your clients have to ever do any thinking work, you guys. Just like we walk in and you get everything that you need.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, so I do that. And then also the Slack support online. So you have access to talk to me during the week if you ever have any questions, emergencies, things like that are all included. Um, And then if you want to sign up, who's it for? It's for anyone who's really working on their self-compassion journey. I'd say, especially for people who've already worked through maybe more therapeutically, like their deeper traumas or things like that. But
Mhm.
also not to say we won't focus on trauma in coaching as well, but it is more action oriented. So we're not going to go quite as deep into, like therapeutically, it would be different. So,
Yeah, definitely.
and so, yeah, so someone who is, at the point in life where they're ready to like start working on themselves and their goals and really achieve what they want to achieve in life, because it is really goal oriented as well. So I'm really working with you on how you can level up in your life and take those next steps. So
Yeah.
people can apply through the link in my bio, in my Instagram bio. You can also go to the website and look at what all the packages have to offer. But once you apply, then I will review the application, see if we'll be a good match. And then if we move forward, I'll set up a discovery call where we'll get to know each other, talk about which program works best for you, and start your journey, which is so exciting.
I love it. And you guys, like, seriously, I'm not gonna lie, like, so self-compassion and learning all of these skills and getting out of this hole of like critics, like being your own worst critic, is like the key to stopping self-sabotage. It's the key to leveling up in your career, in your relationships, and every aspect of your life. Because if you're not bullying yourself, imagine all the amazing things that you're going to actually be able to do, because you're supporting yourself and you're like, hey, you can do it. Like, if I hated myself, I would not be here. That's for sure. So important, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. We can find you at Soul Compassion Wellness,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
right? On Instagram. Okay, perfect. And then what is your website?
My website is www.soulcompassion.com.
Yay! So thank you guys so much for joining us. Alexa, thank you for your wisdom and for answering some of these questions and for your time. Do you have any like closing words of wisdom or any advice for anybody who's on their journey of healing?
I would just say, no matter where you are in life, know that you are so worthy of love. No matter what mistakes you've made, no matter what things have happened to you, you deserve your own love. You deserve to have a better relationship with yourself. You are going to find so much more joy and happiness and motivation, and like, it's so true. And I know you get it, Gabby, too, because you've gone through.
Like it's on the other side, guys. It's so close. And it's just skills. Like, it's not like magic, I promise. It's just like literally self-exploration and then like learning skills that we just weren't taught, like anything else. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I will catch up with you on our next call. And guys, thank you for joining us. And I hope you all have a beautiful day filled with lots of love and compassion for yourselves. See you guys.